The following is an AZPM original production.
For AZPM, I'm Mark McLemore, and this is Arizona Spotlight. Coming up, Spotlight Community Theater is celebrating the holidays with a youth-driven production of Cinderella. We'll meet the theater's founders and two of the leading performers. A tale of true love that bloomed in Tucson in 1943 continues to this day. Reporter Henry Breen wrote about this enduring connection for the Arizona Daily Star, and he'll share the story behind the story of Christine and Ward. And let's take the camel to the drive-in, learn about the interesting history of the Reid Park Zoo from historian and author David Leighton. Those stories are next on Arizona Spotlight. Spotlight Community Theater, which is no relation to this show, is a nonprofit, faith-based performing arts group that offers student-age actors a chance to learn the stage arts with no experience required. This year's holiday production is Cinderella. We'll learn more about the group and their goals next from the father and son who founded the theater, Christopher Abeyta and Chris Abeyta, joined by Lucy and Talia, who were two of their star young performers. Chris Abeyta, who is Spotlight Community Theater's director, begins.
This is our fourth official production that we've done here as Spotlight Community Theater as an entity, and we're just super excited to present this to the Tucson area and be able to share this awesome journey that we've been on with these kids.
What is the size of Spotlight Community Theater? How many people are involved?
We got multiple families now. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I believe we're just under 30 people, all family members combined. The cast size for this show is 15, and most of them have parents and uncles or aunts or grandmas and grandpas that bring them. So I'd say anywhere from, 27 to 35 maybe.
Was it just last year that we met and I spoke with you for the first time?
Yes.
So, Christopher, what would you want people to know about how the organization is growing and developing?
We just always welcome all families. We're very family oriented. We have some single adults that are there, and we have families with 2 or 3 kids. So if you have no experience, you're welcome. If you have years of experience, you're welcome.
Well, we were talking a little before the interview, and Lucy, you said that this is your 3rd year of being a part of Spotlight Community Theater. What keeps you coming back?
Well, I really like it. It's a very enjoyable community. They're very nice, and it's so fun that I want to do it every year.
What would you say is some of the most important things that you've learned about being on stage in 3 years?
Probably knowing when to apply the amount of emotion, or where to stand, or if someone misses a line, how to just get over that without it seeming awkward.
What do you want to tell people about this particular production?
That it's amazing and you should come see it. There's multiple songs. There's a few scenes where we dance, and it's really well put together, and it's a really fun show to be a part of.
Talia, what inspired you to audition for this show and to become a part?
Well, my mom told me about it, and I was like, it's out of the regular theater group that I do. I usually am part of Gaslight Theater. It's like a diner, and they put on adult shows and things there, but they have a youth melodrama group, and so this was a little different, and I was like, you know what, maybe I'll step out of my comfort zone a little bit. It sounded fun, and people sounded nice. Did you have a particular role that you went out for in this play, and who are you playing? I didn't go out for a particular role. I just wanted to be part of it, and I ended up being one of the evil stepsisters.
Is that fun?
Yes, I love being evil people. It's really fun. I'm good at it.
Oh, there you go. I would assume, Chris, that in your role as director, each production presents a new set of challenges, new opportunities as well. What would you say is a challenge in pulling off Cinderella?
The singing, more than anything, this year has been really, really interesting. This is completely new to most of the people that are a part of Spotlight, is getting to, like they both said, step out of their comfort zone. And the songs in this show are unlike any musical that I've ever heard. It's a little bit different. It's not your typical Disney version. This one's a little bit more funny, has a comedy-centered role. With that being said, the songs are just as funny as the actual production itself. And this is an older production from 1954, I believe, was written, and then it was first produced in 1967. So the style of music now that the kids are used to hearing versus the style of music that it's sung in is a little bit different. And while definitely you can always take inspiration from singers of today, but getting them out of their comfort zone and putting them in the spot where they can perform songs that are unlike anything that they've sung before, that they've heard before for some of them, it's a challenge, but it's super, super fun getting to see these kids blossom and become these characters through these songs and through these actions, and we just couldn't be more proud of them.
Christopher, what did you think about the selection process behind choosing Cinderella as your production?
We did this year a very formal rehearsal process where each player came in and did a formal audition. Some were new, like Talia. We didn't know her from previous years, but Lucy being a repeat, we had seen her blossom in the previous show. So we kind of keep an eye on how the kids or the players do each year and remember it for the next year. And when Lucy first came, she was very shy and quiet, and by the performance date last year, she just blew us away. And so whenever she came in for her audition for this, we kind of already had her in our sights as someone who could be a potential for the lead role.
Lucy, would you agree that you were shy and quiet when you first showed up at Spotlight?
Yeah, I think I really was, because I hadn't really done, I had done like previous little acting things, but I hadn't really done something that was to this like level, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm, sure.
So I think I definitely have gotten out of my shell a little bit and more like able to speak louder or able to talk to more people, just like stuff like that.
Talia, did you find that the repertory company was open and inviting? Was it an easy process to join the cast?
Yes, it was. Yeah. That's really all I have.
Okay. So where and when will the performances be held?
We are working this year with the awesome folks that own Intelligent Design Heating and Air. They recently bought the old Greek Orthodox Church that's just off of Fort Lowell. That's address is 1145 East Fort Lowell. They are letting us use their absolutely beautiful ballroom. The history behind that place in general is just really, really crazy.
But how appropriate to have Cinderella in an actual ballroom.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The way that we've been blessed with this place is just crazy, because about 10 years ago that place caught fire. It was a pretty bad fire. And she bought that place out and found out from general contractors that it was only
superficial.
Yeah, it wasn't structural damage done. It was only just a char done to some of the wood, and they've completely fixed the place up, and it looks just amazing. And we're able to work with their charity, Masterpiece Design. Miss Amy Dobbins is the founder of Masterpiece International, and what they do is they are out in Uganda where they will help teens get out of their villages and whatnot, and they help them go through college and high school, and they will graduate them with different degrees that they can use to go back and help their villages and their people.
So that's the primary charity that will be benefiting from the Cinderella production?
Yeah.
To help these charities that we try and do, we're givers. We're by nature, our family is givers. And that's why Spotlight Community gives back a lot to the community. That's why we try and keep the costs affordable to join Spotlight. And that's why 50% of the donations that come in to get in the door goes back to a charity. But we need people to come and see the show. The more people that come to the show, the more we can give to these charities. And so in order to help us fulfill our mission to give, we need people to come see the show.
The Spotlight Community Theater offers Cinderella December 5th through the 8th. You can find a schedule on the Arizona Spotlight page at azpm.org. A recent article in the Arizona Daily Star, written by Henry Breen, told about a love story that began in Tucson in 1943 and that continues today. At the age of 17, Christine Grady met 19-year-old U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Ward Sackle at a USO dance at Tucson's Pioneer Hotel. That was in January of 1943. Sackle was from Connecticut, but was finishing training at Davis-Monthan to serve as part of a B-24 bomber crew. The young couple's time together only lasted about 2 months before Sackle was deployed to the European front, where sadly he was killed in action. Now at age 98, Christine Grady Gorder has traveled to France 11 times to put flowers on Ward's grave. She's currently planning a 12th visit. Her commitment to honoring his memory touched the hearts of many readers, and next, Alicia Vasquez talks to Henry Breen of the Arizona Daily Star to get the story behind the story.
We're here to discuss the story you wrote about Christine Grady Gorder. I guess, can you start off by telling us how the pitch came to you?
Yeah, it was pretty simple. She read something in the Star about another veteran story, and it sort of resonated with her. So she reached out to us, actually. She had just published sort of a memoir about her experience and thought we might be interested in her story, and obviously we very much were.
What's something about the story that made you specifically say, like, yes, this is it. I want to run with this. I want this story.
Oh, boy, there was a lot of elements to it. And as I sort of researched it more, it became more and more interesting to me. But one element I really enjoyed was it's this wonderful snapshot of what Tucson was like in the heart of World War II. I mean, obviously, Tucson was a much smaller place back then, and very few people are around who lived that experience. So it was a very interesting snapshot of what Tucson was like and the University of Arizona was like at that time. And then the detail that really got me was when she was telling me about how she has flowers placed on his grave like 6 or 8 times a year. That I found very moving, the idea of this young man who was killed in 1943, and he has this grave marker in France, a place he probably never got to visit. Even today, there's fresh flowers being placed on his grave. It just, that detail really got me.
How is this story different from others you've had the chance of reporting on in the past?
Well, what's interesting about this to me was she's 98 years old, so she's lived this history that a lot of people just read about in books. She was a teenager going to the U of A in 1943 when she met this guy. So to hear firsthand accounts of what life was like here and what the war was doing to the community and the world at large, straight from somebody who lived it, was very interesting to me. Her life in general is very interesting, aside from just her connection to this young man. And I include some of that because it's in her memoir, but after they parted ways and he was killed, she lived a very interesting life. She had studied Spanish at the U of A, and she went to linguist school. She ended up working for the CIA right after the CIA was founded, and was posted in Havana before Castro, and she was posted in South America and traveled all over South America as a young woman working for the CIA. So very interesting life, and I didn't get too into the weeds on that stuff because it wasn't relevant to the specific love story, but very interesting woman for sure.
Tell us about meeting her for the first time and the impression she made on you.
She's impressive. I hope I'm in the kind of shape she's in when I'm, 60. Honestly, she lives by herself in the same house she's lived in on the east side for, I think she said, over 50 years. She has people come in and help her because she has some medical issues. She uses a walker and things. But I mean, she's not very limited. I mean, she travels to Europe by herself, with some help. She's just a very independent, very with it, eloquent person. She was impressive.
How would you describe Christine Grady Gorder in 3 words?
Determined, passionate, and sharp.
What was the process for getting everything, and describe the experience as well?
This one was a little challenging because it's kind of not quite a one-source story, but I mean, the whole story is coming from her, and obviously the other person involved in this love affair has been dead since 1943, so that's a bit of a complication. But she kept a diary pretty much from her college years on, so she actually has sort of primary sources, written sources she can refer you to, where she writes about these experiences she had. And then, you can do some sort of tangential research, I guess you'd call it. Like, she was telling me things about the U of A in 1943 about how women outnumbered men because most of the men were off serving and things like that. And to try and verify some of that stuff, I actually found an online resource that has yearbooks scanned in from cover to cover online that you can flip through. And it was really interesting to look at like the 1943 U of A yearbook, and then the 1944 U of A yearbook is completely different. The number of men in the photos drops, and there's stuff in the introduction about how they elected like their first woman student body president because, I guess because there were so few men on campus at the time. But it was just the transition from the regular college life to wartime college life was right there on the pages. And it was just really interesting to go through and look at that stuff.
Have you been able to stay in touch with her since?
Yeah, we exchange emails pretty regularly. She's headed back to Europe in just a couple of weeks. And she's going to visit, a sweetheart at the graveyard as well. So she's promised when she gets back, she's going to give me a full report on her trip. And hopefully we'll see some pictures and catch up.
What's the reader response been to the article?
I got a pretty good reader response from it. I think people were pretty charmed by the sort of sweetness of the love story and the fact that she's sort of kept the fires burning for this guy for so long. She kept saying when I talked to her that she didn't want the story to be about her, and she really wanted to sort of highlight the sacrifice that these young men made during World War II. And I totally agree, and I hope they came through with the story. But her story is just so extraordinary. It was really just me not messing it up because it's such a great story.
Well, thank you so much, Henry.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You can find a link to Breen's full article, Love Still Blooms, on the Spotlight page at azpm.org. After conducting 3 years of research and interviewing many of the people who were there, David Leighton, the Arizona Daily Star's regular Street Smarts columnist, has written a comprehensive early history of Tucson's Reid Park Zoo from 1965 to 1978. This work has been recognized by the Arizona Historical Society, so I began by asking David Leighton if being published in the Journal of Arizona History felt like a milestone in his career as a historian.
Definitely. I mean, the Journal of Arizona History, which is produced by the Arizona Historical Society, is probably the most prestigious historical journal in the state. So getting published in there is definitely a feather in the cap, one might say. It's definitely kind of a step in the right direction.
And you began researching this story more than 3 years ago. We had a conversation about the Dye Zoo, D-Y-E. I always feel I should spell that first word for people so they understand. But that was a really interesting chapter in Tucson history and kind of an impromptu zoo that never really got developed. Following that, though, Randolph Park became the site of a different development that has had this history since 1965. David, tell us a little bit about who Gene C. Reid was.
So Gene C. Reid was the son of Maurice Reid, who had the large Orange Grove acreage up there on what's now Orange Grove Road. Mm-hmm. He grew up growing citrus. He grew up growing dates and stuff like that. Very unique part of Tucson's history. When they decided to set up a park system here in town, he was the perfect person to bring in to lead it. And so that's how he ended up becoming the leader of what's now Tucson Parks and Recreation, because he had that background, agricultural background, and that's how he was chosen for that. Mm-hmm. It was a role he was in for many, many years, pretty much his whole life.
Your article begins by pointing out that even before there was a zoo there, though, there apparently were some peacocks.
Yeah, prior to the start of what became the zoo, there were actually a couple peacocks that I believe were just dumped in the park. At the time, Bob Charles, who was a volunteer for Gene C. Reid, was working at the Rose Garden. He remembers hearing the distinct sound they make, which is called the train rattle. So he believed that there was probably a pair of peacocks just dumped in the park, and they just walk around, but there was no zoo there at the time.
The first kind of serious attempt to make a structured environment for animals seems to be the Tucson Prairie Dog Town. Now, growing up in Texas, we had relatives in West Texas, and we would drive through Lubbock, and we would occasionally stop at the Prairie Dog Town in Lubbock. It's quite an interesting affair. So Tucson got some prairie dogs donated?
Correct. So Emerson Hall, who was the number 2 guy in the Tucson Parks and Recreation system, was friends with a guy named Stump Hamilton, who was in charge of the Lubbock, Texas Parks and Recreation. So he actually was the one who arranged for the prairie dogs to come here to Tucson, and he also helped with building their enclosure for what became the first enclosure,
Attraction.
attraction to what became a zoo later on.
But you mentioned in your article that by 1967, the zoo was actually at least applying for a rather large budget from the mayor and city council, about $49,000 worth.
Well, by 1967, Reid had gained a lot of different animals at this point, including Sabu, the elephant. So he needed a budget to work with to help expand, grow, provide food. He predicted that it would take up more acreage, get more animals. So he asked for the $49,404 from the city of Tucson because he wanted to keep the zoo free. That was one of the important things. He wanted the zoo to be free so kids, even the poorest kids, could come in and visit the zoo.
So you mentioned in 1966, Sabu the elephant came to live here. He, at that time, was 2 years old. Some of the zoo's budget went to hiring a trainer for the elephant, a guy named Carl Weiss, and we'll be hearing more about them later. Besides the animals we've mentioned, there were goats, skunks, raccoons, pigs, lambs, rabbits, and a wide variety of birds. Also a French goose, turtles, coatimundi, llamas, foxes, and a white-faced calf named Jennifer.
And Jennifer was one of Gene C. Reid's favorite animals. I think because Jennifer's mother had passed away, so they received her when she was very young. And I think he just kind of felt very kind of fatherly towards the animal.
There was also an interesting way to advertise the zoo that really didn't cost much money, and that was taking a dromedary camel named Chic to the movies.
Correct, yeah. I mean, back in the 1960s, the zoo budget didn't really include money for advertising. So one of the things they would do is one of the senior keepers would take Chic the camel down to 22nd Street and Alvernon Way to what was known as the Cactus Drive-In. It later became the De Anza Drive-In, and he would stand there with the camel outside of the drive-in. People would take pictures with it. It was a way of advertising the zoo, letting people know, hey, we've got camels here, we've got other animals here. And, so they'd take pictures and they'd share it with their friends and stuff like that. And it would help advertise the zoo.
What can you tell us about an event that's referred to as the first polar bear crisis in the history of the Arizona desert?
Back in the 1960s, late 1960s, I think it was, Gene C. Reid decided he wanted to bring in some polar bears from Russia. At the time, the budget was still small. They were only going to have a small cage and a small little swimming area. And people didn't like the idea. Tucsonans didn't like the idea. They thought it was cruel to bring this majestic animal to a place that's, very, very hot. And so people started protesting that and saying this was not a good idea. Reid had said, I talked to this expert and that expert, and they said they'll be fine. And that kind of led to the first controversy related to the zoo. That kind of started the zoo kind of on a negative path, but would end up, creating a better zoo in the end.
You discuss how in December 1969, the city council appointed a 9-member Tucson Zoological Commission to oversee what was going on there, and the Humane Society also got involved at that point and began to check regularly on the animals' welfare.
Correct, yeah. The commission was created due to the protests. The main job of the commission really was to come out with a master plan. When Reid had started this zoo, it was really kind of here and there, just whatever came his way, whatever money he could get, whatever animals were there. There was no real plan for the future. I mean, there might have been one in his head, but there wasn't really one out there. So the commission really was there to create a master plan to hand over to the city of Tucson.
After the polar bears arrived, the next crisis goes back to our elephant friend Sabu and the trainer that the zoo had hired, Carl Weiss. What can you tell me about those events that occurred in 1970?
So while the controversy over the polar bears was still kind of going on, an incident took place where Carl Weiss, who was in charge, of Sabu and his mate Connie. He was moving Sabu from one area to the other, separating him from Connie. And at the same time, people were working on a metal fence, which may have actually triggered this as well. But he starts moving him across, and Sabu just got really angry and just slammed him to the ground and then slammed him against the pole and actually held him against the metal pole. And then finally, he let go and dropped him, and staff kind of pulled him out of Sabu's cage area.
Did we survive?
We survived, went to Tucson Medical Center. His body was pretty messed up, but he did survive and came back a month later to the zoo. But that event really caused concern with Reid and the commission. And so there was concern after what happened, whether they should keep him or give him away to another zoo or whatever else. But the commission decided that he should be euthanized. They didn't believe that another zoo would want someone who's potentially violent, or an animal is potentially violent. People got very upset. It became a really, really big deal. People were saying, no, we want this animal to live. And it went up to the city council, the mayor, and they decided that Sabu was going to stay alive, but they had to start building bigger enclosures and better spaces for these animals. So Sabu's action, while it was shocking and surprising to most people, ultimately led to the change in the zoo to what it is today, a much bigger, healthier area for the animals. I mean, they were put in cages and stuff like that. Now they're no longer really in those cages. So his actions really led to the changes that changed the zoo to a much improved zoo, a much more humane zoo, which exists today.
Listeners can visit the Arizona Daily Star at Tucson.com and read the two-part article that David Leighton wrote for his Street Smarts column. Last summer, the Journal of Arizona History, a publication of the Arizona Historical Society, presented the complete version, along with a similar history of the Phoenix Zoo and a photo essay that were all by our friend David Leighton. Thank you for listening to Arizona Spotlight. This show is a production of AZPM. The production engineer is Jim Blackwood. Production assistance by Sophia Hammer. I'm producer and host Mark McLemore.
AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.